half in the bag.
This seems like a cash grab.
Hey, nostalgia fans. Neo and Trinity are back in Joe Dante's Matrix Resurrections. It's been about 20 years since the original Matrix film changed the landscape of movies forever by inspiring millions of frat guys to attempt to make the same movie because they had a video camera, a pair of sunglasses, and some plastic guns. Then they made two sequels. Now Hollywood says, what else we got? And Shazam! It's a new Matrix movie. But it's not exactly what you'd expect it to be. Now sit back, plug in, and listen to two barely literate Midwestern drunks talk about this movie that you won't remember in 2 weeks.
I remember this.
It's The Matrix Resurrections.
It's a shame the second movie was called Reloaded. That seems like a good title for a reboot.
That's terrific.
A much later reboot. I mean, I guess you could just call it Reboot. The Matrix Rebooted. Because that's got computer terminology in it.
That actually would have been a really appropriate
That would have been better.
title that would fit with the theme.
Yeah.
The very meta.
One of the 15 themes.
One of the very meta themes in this, which is heavily acknowledged throughout the film.
But you made The Matrix. Even I've heard of that.
Yeah, we kept some kids entertained.
So worth it?
Well, throughout the first act. I mean, it kind of comes back at the end. I guess we'll get into it, but...
Yeah. Well, let's just say, if you haven't watched this, we're just going to have spoilers throughout. Because...
It's been out for a couple weeks.
It's been out for a while, and by the time...
You've already saw it and gotten angry about it and said it's the worst movie ever.
Not everybody said that.
Well, I saw, before I saw the movie, I saw like an article, headline, or a tweet or something that compared it favorably to The Last Jedi. And I was like, oh, I know exactly what that means. That means that it's going to get more praise than it deserves from some people, and it's going to be bashed more than it deserves by some people. And the truth lies somewhere in the middle, and I think that's the case with this movie.
Well, the middling reviews, the 68%, and it's like 70, but you go through the comments, Rotten Tomatoes, 1 star, 5 star, 1 star. But let me say, this movie was a mess.
What a mess.
It was confusing. It was cringy at times. It was annoying.
Total effing MILF.
It was sloppy, terrible, and I loved every minute of it. There was something magical going on here, and I've only watched it once. I had to take a break because it was getting late at night, and I was like, I'm too tired. This movie's too long. I got to finish it in the morning.
7:30 or so.
It was 7:30, and
You had your dinner.
I had my dinner, and Wheel of Fortune was over, and I was like, I can't finish the next hour, so I had to watch it the next morning. But
That'd probably be beneficial to watch it in 2 parts, because I was really on board for the first act, and then once the literal story started, because there's a lot of things going on, like thematically and I want to say subtextually, although some of it's not very subtle, but the literal story is, I think, what people that don't like the movie are latching onto, because it's very simplistic. We have to rescue Trinity. And like, if that's all you're getting out of it, I can see you being bored by it, and the action sucks. And so it's like, you want a sequel to The Matrix, just like story-wise, or exploring the lore and the world of The Matrix. I can understand being completely disappointed. And once the meta stuff in the first act or so kind of dissipates and it becomes the we have to save Trinity story, it gets kind of boring.
I say I am the complete opposite.
Oh.
Surprisingly enough. It's on the nose in terms of it being cheeky and self-aware and meta, right? The video game people...
On point. People want us up in their gray space, switching their synaptic WTF light on.
Their brainstorming session, it's like very clearly like a parody of Hollywood executives.
Well, and audiences.
And audiences, yes. Yeah. And in fact, I was like already, like I had this ready for like weeks, months. I'm like, you know what? when I do my half in the bag on this, I'm calling it Matrix regurgitations. That'll show them. And then they said it, and I was like, wait a minute, you're one step ahead of me. Yeah. This isn't like, and that's the difference between what I was expecting and what happened. I was kind of thinking it would be, an annoying reboot attempt to restart the franchise, and I wasn't expecting all the almost self-deprecating, almost definitely self-aware.
Oh yeah.
I was kind of worried at first because he's so much older. The beard, the hair, it all totally works for me.
You idiot.
Well, as you mentioned, Joe Dante, there's
that's
an element of Gremlins 2 to
That
this.
was my Joe Dante joke. Was
criticizing not just the reaction to the original movies, but the fan base and the movies themselves. I mean, it's
right.
The movie is almost critic-proof, because anything you want to throw at it, it's like they've already thought of it.
Yeah.
It's not just the original movies, but what the reaction to this movie will probably be.
Wasn't too sure about the callback, but it's just hard to resist.
What?
Which kind of makes me respect it, where it's like, it's just one of the Wachowskis. One of them didn't want to do it. Yeah. So I guess it's just Lana Wachowski. But having that just kind of fuck it attitude, as the character says in the movie, like, they're going to do this with or without you.
They informed me they're going to do it with or without us.
I thought they couldn't do that.
Oh, they can. And they made it clear they'll kill our contract if we don't cooperate.
Really?
So it's like, okay, well, I'm going to do it. Yeah. I'm gonna make a reboot, a remake, a nostalgia-driven cash grab.
This seems like a cash grab.
I'm gonna do all these things, and I'm gonna make it, I guess, a love story. Fuck it, The Matrix is a love story now. Our characters died in the original trilogy, but they're going to make another one, so fuck it. They're just back, and now we have a happy ending.
It was a love story.
It reminded me of, again, with Gremlins 2, there's the overhead speaker system that's like, tonight on the Clamp Movie Network, Casablanca with a happier ending. I was thinking of that.
Yeah, and...
I admire that go-for-broke attitude of just like, they're going to do it regardless. Let's kind of do something that's more commenting on, not just those movies, but the recent trend of nostalgia-driven reboots.
Yes.
Things have changed. The market's tough. I'm sure you can understand why our beloved parent company, Warner Brothers, has decided to make a sequel to the trilogy.
What?
It's the anti-Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Yeah.
It's the exact... and it's funny because I've seen reactions to this where people are like, remember The Matrix? Remember? And it's like, no.
It's not that.
It's not that.
And it's almost like they're winking, literally winking at the camera. Like, I think my favorite performance in the movie was from Neil Patrick Harris as not the architect. He's the
analyst, yeah.
Which is not was he the new architect or was he just a lower?
When it comes to the lore of any of these movies, I don't fucking know.
Yeah, that's the thing. I didn't know what was going on the whole time. But I kind of knew what was going on. And so I was like, okay.
Well, what's going on literally isn't as important as what the movie's really about. Yeah, and that's kind of the fun part about it.
You can ignore some of that. But it is the new Gremlins 2 because it finds that balance. Joe Dante and Lana Wachowski probably had a nice dinner together one night.
Isn't this wonderful? We're finally getting to know each other.
And Joe said, here's what you do.
They came to you, they're going to do it.
Did Lana want to do this, or was like Warner Brothers like, here, you're poking you with a stick. You want some money?
Why now? Why is now the right time for more Matrix?
Whoa.
I'm assuming it's similar to what they say in the movie, which is they're going to do it with or without you. And so it's like, well, okay.
Yeah, that's reference.
I would rather see this than someone else take over and just do a boring, traditional, give the audience everything they think they want sequel.
Right.
Which is something else this movie comments on.
We don't want another Joel Kinnaman RoboCop.
Oh, yeah.
Or Total Recall with that Irish man.
Oh, yeah.
Colin Farrell.
Colin Farrell.
We don't want that.
As confusing as the movie is on its own, it would be incomprehensible to anyone unfamiliar with the original movies.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't like the, occasionally they do not occasionally, they do it a lot, but the quick cut kind of flashbacks to the original movie. I thought those were tacky. But again, maybe that was a joke, like shoving in the remember when stuff. I don't know. It didn't really work for me, but again, I think it was intentional, so.
There's nothing wrong with that. It's what artists do.
Uh-oh. No. No, 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 no.
Oh, whoa, whoa, what do you mean, no? You wanted this, you did this. This was your idea.
Hell yes.
Well, you got to look at this from the studio perspective. They want to make a movie that the audience doesn't have to watch the originals. That's the point of a soft reboot.
The second and third.
If you remember, yeah, this is mainly, I mean, there are aspects of the second and third one in this, but it's mainly a remember the Matrix, remember the first movie kind of thing.
The second one is sort of glossed over with the exception of the appearance of the Merovingian and some of the werewolves that show up.
And the Jada Pinkett's character.
Yeah, Jada Pinkett's character, although she bleeds over into the third one. But really, it's like the first one, Neo as the computer programmer, everyday man who gets swept up into the Matrix. And then the very ending of the third one, the conclusion of the whole trilogy, when Neo sacrifices himself as a peace offering, a truce.
There's some sort of Jesus shit going on.
Yeah, Trinity gets impaled by a piece of rebar and dies, and then since he's blinded, so there's some sort of metaphorical reference there, I'm sure. That's the thing, is like those second and third films are just like every kind of literary, biblical reference we could
philosophical.
Everything that's smarty pants that you don't understand, we're going to jam in here, and if you don't get it, it's your fault. We're not going to tell you anything. We're going to make references to fucking Plato and.
We're not going to tell you anything, and yet also inexplicably, we're never going to stop talking.
Yeah.
Those movies get so bogged down in dialogue.
And so if you don't understand it, you're stupid. Don't even try to analyze the Matrix films because you didn't understand it. Neither did I, but you didn't understand it. So you're not smart. They're smarter than you. But the ending, yes, he says, I give up myself. I am the Neo. I am the anomaly that the system can't function with an anomaly as strong as Neo. So if I give myself up as an anomaly, you will let the people in Zion live. And I think that's what happened in the end of the third one. I haven't seen it in 15 years, whatever. I saw it once.
Just once. I think I've seen it twice, but it's still, even that's been a long time.
Definitely the second one a bunch of times.
Oh.
Because I like the second one a lot. It was a cascading series of failures for me. The first one is genius. It's what we always say, lightning in the bottle.
It's
it's perfect.
Neo flying up at the end. You're like, okay, I got it. I don't need any more.
It's a perfect little movie.
Yeah.
And there would have been millions of ways to make really good sequels to that, I think. But
well, it became a thing, and again, this new movie kind of comments on it, but the original Matrix kind of meant different things to different people. Like for me, it was always just a really well done action movie with kind of a clever conceit that touches on these kind of philosophical ideas of like what is reality, but it's just under the surface. And the sequels, someone told them like the philosophy stuff, you should focus more on that. Or they thought that was what people wanted out of a sequel, so they amped all that stuff up and kind of alienated people that just wanted a cool action movie.
You say a good conceit, I say a genius conceit.
Well, sure, whatever. But it's a solid movie that, for me, was a good action movie. Other people that maybe latched on to the style of it, the action scenes just on their own. Other people like we live in a simulation kind of mindfuckery.
It hit all the notes. Mm-hmm. In 1999, The Matrix was the new Star Wars for a new generation. Ironically, there was a new Star Wars for a new generation, but at the same time. But The Matrix was that. Now, and to me, it was the culmination. It was the apex of the 90s. The 90s was a period of time where movies stumbled their way through the virtual and cyber films.
Oh, sure.
Starting back in Lawnmower Man, Sandra Bullock's The Net.
Oh yeah, where she orders a pizza on the internet.
Do you remember Virtuosity with Russell Crowe and was it Denzel Washington?
Denzel Washington, yeah.
And
Johnny Mnemonic, also with Keanu Reeves.
Johnny Mnemonic. Hackers. I think that was a little earlier, but yeah, they were like, okay, internet is new, virtual reality, cyber. No one really quite knew what to do. So they stumbled through about like 10 films, and then the Wachowskis come along. Bam. Yeah. They know exactly what to do with this new stuff.
And not just those aspects of it, but also the technologies of filmmaking.
Yes, the bullet time, of course, is a big deal. And then the whole like, it wasn't just like, we've got to punch people. There was the genius little parallel with the Alice in Wonderland storyline. I mean, it was like a fairy tale, much like the original Star Wars.
Sure.
Neo is the everyday, and I think I reference it in my Mr. Plinkett Phantom Menace review, as Neo is the perfect protagonist because he is the everyday man who is given the Alice in Wonderland pill.
Yeah.
You know, you go down the rabbit hole and to a fantastical world where you meet the Cheshire Cat and the rabbit with I'm running out of time. The clocks with the rabbit, and you know, it's Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland, just in a digital age. The world you live in is not what it appears to be, and it's so exciting.
I was gonna say with those aspects, with like groundbreaking action, and also the soundtrack, of course, was a huge deal. So it's like everything.
That's the icing. The heart is Neo is you, and you're going through it with Neo. And Neo he wakes up and what? The world isn't real. I'm in a pod of goo. Aliens have taken it's 300 years in the future, and I was living in the 90s, and it's 2372, and there's robots that are using human beings as batteries, and like it's like a nightmare. Oh, yeah. But then he adjusts, and there's the training sequences when Morpheus, plugs him in to the Matrix, and he's like, Morpheus says, "Do you think that's air you're breathing?" And like you're like, what? Oh my God, he's in a simulation.
What if there's a whole world out there that we're not aware of?
Yes, and it's.
What if everything we know is a lie?
The crux of it is choice. Yeah. Is whether or not you have free choice or if everything's planned out for you. It's destiny versus free will.
Everything begins with choice.
No, wrong.
And so there's big thematic elements. They don't go overboard.
That's the thing about that first movie. It's the perfect balance of all these things.
Where they start bringing in, they start dusting off philosophy books from ancient times and saying, you didn't get that reference from Nietzsche. What are you, stupid? When that stuff starts coming in.
If there's an answer, there's only one place you're going to find it.
Where?
You know where.
But when it's accessible to the everyday audience, and then there's the danger of the agents, and you can be killed in the real world while you're plugged in a chair, and all those that complete relatability.
Yeah.
And then it ends with Neo discovering he is the one, and he has the ability to bend the Matrix with his arms and stop bullets, and then that's the end of the film, and he goes off to adventure, and who knows what awaits.
Well, the Matrix Reloaded is what awaits.
I know.
That's the thing, is those sequels, and even though I don't like the sequels, I admire what they were trying to do with them, because the end of the first movie, it's like, he's the one. And then the sequels are kind of trying to deconstruct that. It's like, oh no, you're a part of the Matrix, and we've rebooted you 7 times or something like that. We keep going through the same thing over and over.
Star Wars, Jay. Luke Skywalker is Neo at the end of A New Hope.
Sentinels. How long?
5, maybe 6 minutes.
Star will be in range in 5 minutes.
What is he doing?
He's beginning to believe.
Luke, you switched off your targeting computer. What's wrong?
Nothing. I'm all right.
Because he is the one with the magic power who is able to shoot the proton torpedo into the hole and blow up the Death Star when everyone else failed.
Oh, yeah.
And then he gets a fucking gold ribbon, a gold medal on a ribbon. So does Han Solo.
Chewbacca doesn't.
Chewbacca doesn't.
Luckily, they fixed that with Rise of Skywalker.
Oh, thank
God.
Oh, he got his medal. Oh, thank
God.
Oh, he got his medal. Oh, thank
God.
Oh, he got his medal. Were they playing with us all along? Because that Agent Smith fight is almost like a joke in itself. It's like, well, there's one Agent Smith, now there's 100. Where it's like,
in retrospect, now I want to go back and rewatch them and see, based on this new movie, see if I have a different reaction to those.
I have a feeling they were trying to create like art or a really deep, complex lore.
They were, yeah, that was the goal. And they
on,
weren't giving an audience what it wanted, which they wanted more cool action and you know, they wanted the same movie again, and they tried to do something different. I don't think it's successful, but like I said, I kind of admire the attempt to do something different, even though I don't really like those sequels.
Well, I think too is the audience wanted, by the end of the third one, in typical movie narrative fashion, they wanted the humans to win in the end. You want the humans to defeat the robots, which is virtually impossible. Mm-hmm. And the Wachowskis look at it from a perspective of this is just a mindfuck computer program that resets it. They're more in the technological element, and then people weren't happy with the ending because it wasn't. It ends with the Oracle sitting on a park bench with is it?
The little girl who shows up in this new one, too.
Yes.
And they're like looking at the sun, or the rainbow, or whatever.
She's like, the Matrix has reset itself.
Yeah.
And then there's that confusing scene. I think this is where I get very confused. When Neo meets the architect.
In the second one?
In the second one.
Here goes some of my answers you will understand, and some of them you will not.
And the architect, explains everything. And that Neo's been there like 38 times before, and they have all the TVs with all the different Neos, and it's like, Neo is a human being? He's a literal human being, and then how long has this been going on for? And all those Neos, like how many times has the Matrix reset? And as a human being, has he aged? Did he keep getting put back in the pod and taken back out? And I didn't understand that. In this, it seems to ignore that part and kind of jump from Matrix 1 to Resurrections, where Neo got put, after he sacrificed himself and laying there like Jesus with the eyes gouged out, and they consume him, and then there's some kind of storyline about how Neil Patrick Harris resurrects Trinity. He rebuilds her body so she comes back alive. Same with Neo. They fix his eyes.
Yes.
They fix his brain.
They get everything back to what you want.
They come back alive.
That's the thing, is the literal story, I don't know what the fuck is going on in the explanation of that stuff. But it almost doesn't matter.
Well, he says that these Neo and Trinity are kind of like the errant programs that mess with the balance of the Matrix. Mm-hmm. And keeping them alive was important, but keeping them subdued and in the Matrix was even more important.
Yeah.
And they couldn't be close together because they were too powerful close together. It's some kind of computer thing where it's there are two programs that when they work together, they can cause catastrophic failure to the Matrix. So they kept them in pods, kind of separated, and that was the best outcome. Mm-hmm. And I don't know why he resurrected them.
Because an audience wants more? I don't know. If you're talking about the actual story reason, I don't have any idea.
Yeah, well, there's some kind of there's a new version of the Matrix, right?
Yeah.
And which is kind of there's a great little speech at the end by Neil Patrick Harris where very clearly talking about what audiences want.
And about that last scene when they confront him. Yes. That's what ties the whole movie up in a little bow.
Yeah, he's like, audiences want something familiar and comfortable that doesn't challenge them too much. He says a bunch of stuff like that.
And in regards to The Matrix specifically, they don't want this sentimental crap.
Go for it. Remake it. Knock yourselves out. But here's the thing. The sheeple aren't going anywhere. They like my world. They don't want this sentimentality. They don't want freedom or empowerment. They want to be controlled. They crave the comfort of certainty.
Because now it's a love story. It's Neo and Trinity together. And they're going to make this magical world with rainbows and shit. And he's like, they don't want that. They want the same shit they've seen a million times before.
Right.
They want The Matrix 1 again.
It's very cynical. It's very meta.
That's fine.
It's schlock. It made me laugh many times, but not in a way where it was bad. I mean, the movie looks cheap.
Yeah.
The action fight scenes aren't that great.
Blah, blah, blah.
The action's the worst. That's the thing too. Is like it's a Matrix movie, so even if you're gonna do this like meta stuff, like the action should be decent. Yeah. And none of the I did like the part when they call them bots are like throwing themselves out of windows.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That was the one fun part. But other than that, I know they didn't have the same like choreography crew that did the original 3 movies. I was surprised. I think it's the highest budget movie of the 4.
Resurrecting you both was crazy expensive.
Which really surprised me. I could forgive the cheapness if it was like, they did it for a lower budget because they didn't have high expectations for how well a new Matrix movie would do, but it's pretty expensive. I want to say it's like close to $200 million. So it does look cheap for that, just visually.
Again, it's one of those things where it's like they did kind of everything right. I mean, Keanu he's almost 60.
Yeah.
And he's not going to be fighting like he was when he was 30, which is just a law of nature. And you don't want a bad stunt double. Yeah. And Carrie-Anne Moss, of course, is older as well. But, and so they have a couple of like, Trinity does her signature leg kick and a couple of punches, but then Neo fights, but then he's mostly doing is like, I'm going to stop
He
the
does
bullets.
this so many times.
He's got force powers.
But he can't fly anymore. He's got to save his energy for those John Wick movies. That's where he really exudes himself. Which, by the way, another kind of meta thing. In this new version of The Matrix, he's the video game designer. Carrie-Anne Moss is like a wife with 2 kids. Her husband, who's named Chad, which that alone is funny, because Chad is like the alpha. The actor playing Chad was his stunt double on the original movies, Keanu's stunt double, and the director of the John Wick movies, I guess. So it's like there's another meta thing, because it's like, in this world, she's with him, and he's, in reality, Keanu's stunt double. And
that's interesting. I didn't know that.
I thought that was interesting.
Look, I'm sorry. I'm a geek.
I hated it at first. I was very concerned at first with those like cringy video game guys.
Oh yeah.
And I don't.
But once you realize what they're kind of critiquing, then it works.
Yeah, it just felt out of place.
Yeah.
Such a very like the original movies were just so cool. Everyone was cool in it, and every line of dialogue was just so simple and pointed. And then this, it's like you have those goofy, wacky characters, but it's like they are the personification of perhaps Lana Wachowski's hatred of like studio executives, maybe. This is all.
And the college guys that you were talking about in the opening, they're like, bullet time, cool.
Yeah, right, they're the audience. What do people want to see? They want to see bullet time.
Yeah.
And like, what do we know about the Matrix? And all that kind of stuff. And it's like, I'm sure she's had numerous conversations with higher ups who've talked like that.
Oh yeah.
And
they even name drop Warner Brothers at one point.
Yeah. Their parent company, Warner Brothers, wants to make a sequel. And that's why this is a Joe Dante film. It's genius in many ways. But on the opposite end of that, they do find a balance in creating new lore for the Matrix movies that the real Matrix fans might like.
Maybe. That's the stuff I was bored by. When I say the middle of the movie was boring. When they go to, not Zion, whatever, Ion or whatever the new one's called.
A new place.
IO or something. And we have boring scenes with Jada Pinkett, and I guess it's kind of interesting, the idea that the machines and the humans are sort of coexisting or something. I don't know. There's a cutesy little robot, and that feels like a nod to studio notes. Like,
right.
We gotta have a cutesy version of something from the original movie. I don't know.
When the robotic winged bird shows up, I felt like I was watching an episode of Rick and Morty. It got so silly, and I'm like, what is that? And then when they had the Sentinels come in, and I'm like, oh, they reprogrammed Sentinels to work for them, you know. What movie did that? Oh, that was Rogue One. Remember Rogue One?
Oh, vaguely.
They take like a Death Star droid, played by
is that the Alan Tudyk character?
Alan Tudyk, and they reprogrammed to work for them. Yeah, and so it's like that's kind of typical. But I think they said like the squids, the Sentinels, had like a change of heart or something. Like they wanted to help the humans, which didn't make any sense. I was confused by that, but whatever. But they have some robots that help them steal Neo out of the poop pod, and they take him away. And
well, that's the weird thing, is the whole plot of the movie. Like I said, we have to rescue Trinity. It's like a heist or something. There's even the scene where they're all in a circle talking about their plan. It just feels so like simplistic for what you would think a Matrix sequel would be, because the other ones are so kind of heady and have these big ideas. I'm talking on a literal level.
She is explaining the plan, or the grown-up Indian girl is, who's a program.
Yeah.
They go inside the Matrix, and they talk to the girl, the little Indian girl from the subway who's grown up, and her parents were purged, and the dad gave her all the knowledge. This is probably pointless, but the plan is to get Trinity and then perform some kind of operation where the girl with the blue hair could jump in Trinity's body temporarily to kind of take her matrixy place, so that they could pull the real Trinity out and save her in real life. I don't know. I did read real quick. I read one very brief thing.
Okay.
And I don't know if it's real, but it was a little like paragraph by Lana Wachowski. So reading Lana Wachowski's reason for making The Matrix and tearing up all over again. So I don't know. This is a quote. It's just on text, and I'm assuming it's real. If it's not, let us know. Email us at idon'tgivetwofucks
at matrix.fart.
At matrix.fart. Clownpenis.fart. Lana Wachowski said, my dad died. Then this friend died. Then my mom died.
Oh.
I didn't really know how to process that kind of grief. I hadn't experienced it that closely. You know, their lives are going to end, and yet it was still really hard. My brain has always reached into my imagination, and one night I was crying and couldn't sleep. My brain exploded this whole story, and I couldn't have my mom and dad, yet suddenly I had Neo and Trinity, arguably the two most important characters in my life. It was immediately comforting to have these two characters alive again, and it's super simple. You can look at it and say, okay, these two people die, and okay, bring these two people back to life. And doesn't that feel good? Yeah, it did. It's simple, and this is what art does, and that's what stories do. They comfort us.
Okay, well that makes the whole movie make a lot more sense.
Yeah.
Interesting.
You know, we always go, we don't really delve too far into I was curious on how this got made. Did studios poke Lana and go, we need another film, you're going to direct it, or else we own the property technically. We're gonna get
Colin Trevorrow,
or we're gonna get Brett Ratner, and he's gonna make.
I think he's been Me Too'd, so he's out of the equation now.
Okay, well we're gonna get Bryan Singer.
Okay, that's better.
And he's gonna make Matrix with a bunch of little boys in it. And they're all going to be the Sentinel. The agents. The age of the agents have gone down to 17. They're more agile.
Okay.
It's like they're more agile at fighting.
That makes sense.
That's
the most logical reason to have your movie filled with 17-year-old boys. Yeah.
They're younger. They're sexier, and they're more agile at fighting Neo because they can duck. Mm-hmm. They're a little shorter maybe than regular agents.
Yeah.
And Bryan Singer's going to direct. Or how about we get Bill Cosby to direct? he's out of prison temporarily. He can direct the new Matrix film.
Sure.
Or James Franco, or Louis C.K., you know. We could have a whole scene where he in front of Trinity. You know, and do you want that in your film?
In bullet time.
In bullet time. Trinity's got
oh my God, I just got the mental image that will never leave my brain.
Yeah.
And I hate that I just brought this into the world.
Everyone, picture Trinity in bullet time dodging something that's not a bullet. Jay did that for you.
I want to take the blue pill.
It's interesting because it is, like you said, Reboot would have been a great title because it is, they are going back to the beginning. It's not like as something as like Jurassic Park, like Jurassic World, where it's like, okay, here we go again. And why is everything the same? Yeah. In the computer programming logic of it all, it makes more sense as a remake or reboot.
Yeah.
As reboot means starting up your computer again. And that's perfect. It's perfect. And so when the program is rebooted, there are all these different little visual things. Like there's the shot underneath the helicopter as it's firing its huge machine gun, and all the shells are raining down. There's so many like like Neo waking up. It's like it's like calling back.
Well, even the whole opening scene, which is almost identical to the opening of the original movie.
Right.
But then you have our, what's her name, Bugs or something, her watching it.
Yes, Bugs, the rabbit.
And she starts to get like frustrated when things are slightly different. She's like, that's not how it's supposed to be.
So deja vu, and yet it's obviously all wrong.
Why use old code to mirror something new?
I don't know.
Yeah. And again, it's like, that's the audience. Like,
yes.
Give us exactly what we want. Again, we know what the audience thinks it wants, and we're going to give you the exact same shit. And that's what this movie is making fun of.
Yeah.
I wish they pushed it further. That's my only problem, is the middle of the movie I think is kind of boring. And then New Morpheus, which I suppose you could say that's like a nod to just casting a younger actor for a reboot, like to bring in the younger audience or something.
Yeah.
But he has some line about nostalgia too, when they're in the theater that's literally projecting the first movie.
Right.
Nothing comforts anxiety like little nostalgia.
And then you get to those action scenes. A couple new things they introduced: the swarm. Instead of moving agents around within people, they just activate all the people in the Matrix.
Yeah.
They turn into like zombies.
I think they call them bots, don't they? I think they say bots at one point.
They either say bots or the swarm. They call them the swarm because their eyes turn into Matrix eyes.
Yeah.
And they aren't real people anyways, so they are bots.
Yeah.
They're digital representation of the people that live in the goo pods. So yeah, they're just computer programs that are linked to human brains.
Yeah.
So they take them over, which makes complete sense. And the idea of the Morpheus character is sort of an amalgamation of a Morpheus and the agent that Neo wrote into the program for some reason. He creates a module, like a miniature, to kind of test to see if the Matrix was real.
Something.
And so that guy, he's a bunch of like little digital things that'll kind of coalesce and create a like a person that can exist in the real world. It's almost like the inverse of a Matrix. A real person goes into the Matrix. A Matrixy character comes into the real world as little digital magnetic things that come together. It kind of looks like those. The pin things.
Yeah,
you put your face in the pin thing.
Yeah.
No one born before 1990 knows what we're talking about.
Look, if you've ever been into Spencer's Gifts.
You remember those?
Are those still around? Are malls still around?
No. I call malls COVID factories. And then, not the architect, the analyst's ability to kind of pause the program, which seems like a very good upgrade from the old Matrix. We can just stop the program and slow it down, and he can drop exposition bombs while that's happening. So a handful of new things, and just some new robots flying around. And then they still treat the story with respect to a certain degree, while kind of poking fun at reboots and remakes at the same time, which is Gremlins 2.
Yeah, it's like a way to kind of have your cake and eat it too. I'm not talking about the orgasm cake from Matrix Reloaded. And that stuff, the direct sequel kind of building on the mythology there, that's the stuff that didn't work for me. I just didn't care. That may be because I just don't really care about the Matrix as a franchise. I don't know. The stuff that interested me, even though some of it was kind of clunky and, like you mentioned, kind of cringy, was the meta stuff and the commenting on this movie existing at all. That's the stuff that really worked for me.
This is kind of like, I don't know if it's like the best way to continue on with these movies, but I could see potential for, like, it would work as a good, like, series on HBO.
Which is what it looks like visually.
It does. It doesn't look that great. And when they kept showing the flashbacks of the old movies where it's like grainy and it's like film, and I'm like, oh yeah, I want to go back and watch the original movies, especially the first one. But what I was lacking in it was that perfectness of what is our goal and what are the stakes.
Yeah.
Because I kind of understood the goal was that their mission was to rescue Trinity, to get her out of there, and I'm not really sure why, because those two together, because remember, Neil Patrick Harris was like, this new Matrix is great. I've got my 2 anomaly programs kind of locked in, and everyone, there's less desire for people to get out of their pods. They're very happy. They're sheeple. You know, it's a commenting.
Have you seen Spider-Man Far From Home? Or whatever the new one is?
No. Home Sweet Home.
Home Sweet Home Alone?
Yeah, I have not.
But that's, or Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Did you watch the new Spider-Man?
No. I'm just saying, like, that's what they're commenting on.
Yeah, people
everything now is, it's the same shit we always criticize, where you're just, like, regurgitating member berries.
Yes, and the member berries in this came with a wink, and that's to me the smart part about it, was that it wasn't regurgitation. It was regurgitation with a little stick in your eye, which is like, I get you.
Yeah,
and I appreciate that. It wasn't more of the same, but Neil Patrick Harris was saying that's what people want.
Yeah.
And
Lana Wachowski is saying, fuck what people want. Let's do something different. And for a Matrix movie, you know, that's probably not what a lot of people want, but I appreciate going there and not just doing a Jurassic World type soft reboot.
We were on our way to remake your world.
Change a few things.
I kind of like the paint the sky with rainbows idea.
The crux of the film, the goal, as it were, is not so much to take down the entire robot world, but it was to rescue Trinity. And then we discover that taking them out of the equation forcibly resets the Matrix to its previous version, because it can't function with Trinity and Neo out of their pods, which is what I think happened. Neil Patrick Harris lost all of his power. Neo and Trinity were like the new power couple in the Matrix, and they could do whatever they want. And so the balance of power was disrupted, leading to potentially future conflicts, future sequels, an HBO Max TV show where Neo is not played by Keanu Reeves anymore. And
just revive the Animatrix. Just have them animated.
You could do that. I don't know. If the intention is to continue making films, there is an out for that. And then it is shown that Trinity is also the one, or Neo has given her the power to be the one because she flies at the end, remember?
Yeah. They have equal power now, I guess. And they can rebuild the Matrix however they want.
Girls get it done.
Girls get it done.
Neo can fly, but she shows him how to fly. It's a gender reverse kind of thing going on, where Neo is no longer the one, Trinity is whatever. It's lovely. They're back together. They're alive again, which is risky to do because, you know, he wants some stakes. That was the nice part about the first one.
Oh yeah, I remember that part in the first one when Joe Pantoliano is eating the steak. Is that what you're talking about?
Oh yeah. They reference that in this.
They do, yeah.
Neo's eating the steak, and he's enjoying
Yeah, that was
it.
a pretty gross-looking steak.
It was.
It was like what is that? I think you should leave, where they're eating the sloppy steaks.
What are sloppy steaks?
It's a steak with water dumped on it. It's really, really good.
It reminded me of that. Just dousing water on your steak. Yeah. It's a sloppy steak.
It was a little too rare for my taste. that thrust of the first one is that timing. You know, the Nebuchadnezzar's being attacked by the Sentinels, and they're shooting lasers and cutting the ship up, and they only have so much time left to escape. But Neo's still in the Matrix. Exciting.
Oh yeah, this movie doesn't have any of that, and all the action's boring and bad.
Mindless action is not on brand.
She's right. Matrix is mind-born. Philosophy in shiny, tight PVC.
Yeah, ideas are the new sexy.
Like I said, that's if you're watching the movie as like a Matrix sequel on a literal level, it's not very satisfying. It's all the other stuff. It's the themes of the movie and just the general kind of fuck it nature of the whole thing.
Yeah.
Where it's like at the end, love wins out. I guess there's a love element in the original Matrix, which is always the thing that kind of worked the least for me about it. When she revives him, doesn't her digital hand go in and
No, he sticks.
Or
his
he
hand in
revives
there.
her, whatever.
She gets shot in the belly.
Yeah. That was always I don't know. That was the weakest aspect of that movie for me.
You didn't think they had chemistry?
They're fine. As characters, I don't really care about them all that much. Neo works as a protagonist for that type of story, as you've said. But this movie's all about that because Lana Wachowski's in a different place, is making different types of movies, isn't interested in something that looks cool anymore. And that wins out over a cynical studio cash grab.
Cash grab.
Right. Very well said, Jay. Very well said. I was surprised at the outcome of this movie. It's fascinating. It's fascinating. I don't love or hate it.
No, like I said, I like all the themes and stuff, but the actual story and some of the execution of it is not very good. There's some really clunky, awkward dialogue.
Oh yeah. It's bad in many ways.
It's bad in a lot of ways. The scene where
but I still loved every minute of it.
The scene where Morpheus comes out of the bathroom stall and Keanu Reeves acting in that scene. I think he's trying to act like someone with anxiety issues or something.
It was a test. An experiment.
He's doing some weird stuff, and it's really bad.
Yeah, thankfully Keanu talks very slowly.
Yeah.
And he's like, what are you talking about?
What word should I use? What word explains what is happening to me?
What exactly is this? I'm like, thank you for talking slowly. Neil Patrick Harris is talking quickly. It's like the scene with the architect. He's like,
oh yeah,
blah 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 blah, ergo, there, blah
he's
blah.
Just
blah,
using tons and tons of big
big words, and you're like, yeah.
And you're like, I guess the movie's too smart for me because he's talking a lot.
He says ergo a lot.
He does.
And
he uses lots of words like that.
But I mean, hey, it's well written because a computer that is the architect of the Matrix probably would be pretty fucking smart. Probably wouldn't talk like James Franco.
Look, whatever happens, but because I've had girlfriends.
So, Mike, would you recommend The Matrix rebooted, as it should have been called?
Yeah. Why not? Again, if you got HBO Max.
That's true.
HBO Max is great, and we're not sponsored by them, so shut up. I love HBO Max. There's so much good stuff on it. But I love the fact that new movies are out on HBO Max. So for that alone, if you have it, it's worth watching one night if there's nothing else on. Nothing else you feel like watching, I should say.
I think that helps with the anticipation of movies like this, too. Like big movies. When you because you have to make a night of going to the theater, and it's like, well, the movie better be really fucking good. I'm going out of my way to see it. We just watch it on HBO Max. It's like,
I
the new Matrix movie, yeah.
I think, though, our dream of coronavirus destroying movie theaters has taken a bad turn, Jay.
Unfortunately.
That Spider-Man movie is like the third highest grossing film in the history of movies. or the history of the pandemic. I forget which way the news twisted that article, but apparently it's doing well. And then I think the Matrix box office money is smaller.
Yeah.
Now the monetary end of it, does HBO Max care? Do they have enough subscribers to balance that out? We don't know. We've discussed this before, but if you have HBO Max, watch it. I would say get HBO Max in general because they got lots of good stuff on there. And you, sir? You're gonna say no?
No, I'd recommend it.
Okay.
Not if you're looking for a good Matrix sequel, though. It's such a weird movie, which is what makes it interesting.
Yeah.
It's not a satisfying sequel, really, but it's a more interesting sequel than what a more traditional sequel would have been.
Yeah.
It's doing lots of stuff. It doesn't do it all very well. Some of it does flat out bad. But it's unique, especially right now. Like, this is the movie we need right now. One of those things.
Is it?
Where it's like, the movie comments on all those things that we criticize all the time about studio nostalgia grab sequels and reboots.
Although you're trying to discredit, you still never read it. The needle I'll thread it.
That Rage Against the Machine cover at the end was fucking awful, though.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about
But again,
that.
was that intentional? I mean, obviously it's a female vocalist, so there's something going on there, but
I saw
it's so bad.
I looked in the credits and I was like, that's a Rage Against the Machine song, isn't it? And then it's like written by Morello and all the band members. And then it's the band that did the cover is called Brass Rage. So it's like the Rage is in the title. Is that a cover? Like specifically a cover band of Rage Against the Machine songs? Did they not have the money to license a Rage Against the Machine song?
I'm assuming it was an intentional choice.
But it was like this is. Yeah, it was.
But it was like the vocals were mixed way louder than the actual music or something, so it didn't have that like hard hit that the end of the first movie has.
Yes,
it was really weird.
It was really quiet, and and then
they should have used like an old timey like a Dean Martin song or something. Like why not? Sure. Something kind of like schmaltzy and old timey, just to contrast the Rage Against the Machine music.
Yeah,
but doing like a weird cover of it.
But the fact that it was it a monetary decision? We don't want to pay for the sync license of a real Rage song, or is this fourth movie a cover of the originals that's worse?
Yeah.
Like, is that even meta? Is the choice of closing music song even that meta? And so that's why I think this movie's some kind of work of art. It's a modern day work of art. It's a modern day fuck you to the film industry.
Now, the packet in front of you has our focus group research. Inside, you'll find the breakdown, including key word association with the brand. The top two being originality and fresh, which I think are great things to keep in mind as you begin working on Matrix 4.
It's something special.
Even if it doesn't work completely, you gotta admire at least that aspect of it.
Right. And the scene when the movie kind of glitches up. Do you remember that? The movie glitches up, and then it goes error, streaming error, and then Hulk Hogan pops up.
Oh,
and he says,
HBO, what's going on with your servers? Oh, I pity the fool that's operating the HBO servers.
Is it Hulk Hogan or is it Mr. T now? Because Mr. T pities the fool, not Hulk Hogan.
That's true.
They were both in Rocky 3 together.
How about it's both of them? They both pop up.
Like, is one person kind of like Morpheus in this?
Yeah,
So it's Morpheus and an agent?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
it's Hulk Hogan in blackface.
It's Hulk Hogan in blackface with a bunch of gold chains.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, it's the perfect role for him.
Yeah.
And we're on.